Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump is worth financially $5.1 billion with a B. $5.1 billion. In a couple of seconds, you will hear an update on the New York Appeals Court upcoming verdict that will overturn and reverse the $400 to $500+ million judgment against Trump for an absurd alleged inflating of his net worth. That is important, ladies and gentlemen. It's relevant to this second in terms of American politics because President Trump, they've tried to bankrupt him. They've tried to imprison him. They've tried to say he wasn't worth billions. They've tried to politically destroy his presidency. The movement that propelled his presidency, which is bringing back American jobs, which is why the tariffs are important, ending never-ending wars and conflicts, enforcing immigration laws. They tried to do that by bankrupting him in other ways as well. They tried to end his life, or some individual acting in a nefarious manner, of course, without any assistance from anyone. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. Check this out. This is huge. We'll get to the $5.1 billion that he's made right before all this, while Letitia James has a scandal herself with mortgage fraud that actually did hurt the market and lenders. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe. These segments are very important.
Court could use the higher standard and it would be fine because
I notice you say the ordinary standard on page 55 of your brief. You say these deceptive strategies had a capacity or tendency to deceive because they would have been relevant to and likely to mislead an ordinary person involved in the business dealings, and you cite to General Electric. Mm-hmm. Isn't the test here whether they were likely to mislead Deutsche Bank or Ladder Capital or the City of New York awarding a golf license, or Zurich on a surety bond program, or Everest National Insurance Company on a directors and officers policies? The defendant's statements were not meant for ordinary people. They were directed at some of the most sophisticated individuals and entities in business.
Well, if the court wants to use this.
So, as the court is saying, President Trump never meant for any of the loan statements or his statements in general to Deutsche Bank to be heard or to be accepted by the general population, meaning that what he was doing is, as a billionaire with real estate around the world, with having already conquered Hollywood, with Truth Social, billions upon billions of dollars that he has working with Deutsche Bank as a former president, current president, now two-time president who won the popular vote. They negotiated with him for loans because they knew not only would they be paid back with interest, they actually defended him during this case. Now, why is that important? The upcoming verdict, there's an imminent verdict. Okay, yes, this is from September 2024. The imminent verdict is that he's going to get a huge, huge victory. He's not going to have to pay the $400 to $500+ million. The $5.1 billion will probably increase tremendously as the country rebounds economically, with more jobs and more manufacturing coming back into the United States of America, so the quote-unquote working class can benefit, the same working class that Democrats care so much about. Now, market's down today, obviously. Democrats, I'm wondering when they'll accuse Trump of insider trading again when the market rebounds tomorrow or next month or whenever it does. Hit subscribe to this channel if you are new, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out.
And then there's your colleague in the Senate, Adam Schiff, who has chosen to take insider trading charges out of the air and making these serious charges. He wants to know, and he says he's going to investigate if the White House officials tipped off, or were they tipped off, before President Trump's decision to pause retaliatory tariffs yesterday. Listen to his serious charge. Watch.
The nerve affected by
I'm writing to the White House to demand who knew in advance that the president was going to once again flip-flop on tariffs, and are people cashing in? There is just all too much opportunity for people in the White House and the administration to be insider trading.
So he's talking about cashing in, Congressman. About 5 hours before President Trump announced the pause, Trump posted this on Truth Social. Everyone, this is a great time to buy. And of course, the president has been saying that from the get-go, saying, sure, we're going to have a period of disruption, but cool it. Things will be fine at the end of the day. But Adam Schiff is now making this charge. No comment whatsoever about whether anybody from the Biden family cashed in on all of our adversaries, as the Oversight Committee has charged.
Right. You know what? The good old adage I always grew up with was buy low, sell high, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't sell, you didn't lose anything, and everything's on sale when the markets are low. And that's kind of the perspective I've always had when we ride out these ups and downs. And I think that's what the American people, I'm hopeful that they've learned from this challenge in the last week. But look, Adam Schiff, Senator Schiff, has made his career here out of fear-mongering and lies. And I think that they have literally nothing else to go on. They are standing in the way, again, of tax cuts for the American people. They're standing in the way of border security. Again, they're voting down policies that protect women's sports. They've completely lost their way, and they have nothing to run on. So
they absolutely have nothing to run on. And when you look, ladies and gentlemen, these tariffs almost certainly, these tariffs will help the country bring back American jobs, American manufacturing, so that people can have a quote-unquote living wage, which is what Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC and the Squad and Democrats have run on. So people won't need social safety nets. They won't need unemployment insurance. They'll be able to go ahead and have a job where they can, the working class or the middle class can have jobs that build things inside the country. Manufacturing is very important. When you had manufacturing plants leave cities in the 80s and 90s, okay, those cities were never the same. That's how poverty starts, or that's how poverty persists. When you had employment, centers of employment within cities, and those centers of employment leave, or those manufacturing plants leave. But this is huge because the $5.1 billion that President Trump has is only going to increase, and the country is going to get wealthier. Check this out. If you like Corvettes, check this out.
We're not changing the subject, we're just changing the location here. Joining us is Douglas Ernest. He's the owner of the Corvette Warehouse in Dallas, Texas.
And by the way, really quickly, Democrats said insider trading when the market skyrocketed after the market tanked. Now, if the market skyrockets tomorrow or next week or next month, is Adam Schiff going to say, oh, insider trading? Okay, let's check this out. You like Corvettes? Listen to this.
It is the largest Corvette dealership in the Southwest. I believe we can see some of them in the background. Ernest, you had your best sales week in 2 years. Does that have anything to do with tariffs?
You know, from the perspective of Corvette Warehouse, Stuart, we absolutely believe and are convinced that that's what happened with this slow and calculated tariff rollout program that was smart and layered by the Trump administration. It gave the American business owner, the American workers, a chance to reset. The preliminary statements came out in January, and we immediately saw an uptick in our business. And we had customers that have not been with us for 3-4 years start to return to our product and visit our dealership. And as the phase policy announcements came out, immediately we had an uptick in business. And, you know, contrary, I just want to let the audience know that the week that the stock market was making a temporary correction, we had the best week we had in actually 3 years.
Excellent, excellent. Now, how much of a Corvette is really made in America? Not assembled here, but made in America?
98% of all products on that Corvette are produced in America. The Corvette is the longest running American sports car, and it's been in existence for almost 80 years, since 1953. It started out in St. Louis, and now it's produced in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And
So I have no affiliation with the dealership. I'm just saying, who doesn't love a Corvette? I love Corvette. I'm not even into cars. And a Corvette is like, the best, sports car, one of the best in my view. Anyway, that's just, something, a thought about cars that I have. But anyway, a preference for cars. But anyway, $5.1 billion. Why is that important? Because it undermines everything Democrats have tried to do against Trump. Letitia James, that mortgage case, the mortgage fraud investigation, will lead to resignation while Trump gets an appeal that will overturn the absurd verdict against him. These segments are very, very important. They're very relevant. Hit subscribe. I'll be back very soon. Thank you.